Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Sagittarius energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Sagittarius energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Sagittarius. We all have to make decisions in our life in free will, and some people could be debating within themselves. They might like to move forward in life a little differently than they are, but the bottom row can kind of represent our comfort zone, or our fears, or insecurities. The top row can also represent some people in our life who might be more hopeful and believing and encouraging of us. And the bottom row might represent some people in our life who want us to keep living life the way we live it, because then we'll keep staying in that job, that friendship, or that relationship. And sometimes some of the people who we've been aligning with in our life, they don't want to maybe move forward in life any differently. Maybe, dealing with these fears and insecurities, or facing their fears, or healing from past pain and heartbreak or something, or being more independent of their ego nature or in life from other people in their life. They're not ready to do that. And so then they don't want other people to do that, We have our dualistic nature. We have these different people in our life that align with our more high vibe nature or our more shadowy nature. And, people can want us to be their friend, be in a relationship, be in a job, but everybody has their way of living life. And if you're going to move forward with the more high vibe people, you have to temper your ego, your fears, your insecurities, kind of love and believe in yourself, maintain balance within yourself. And some people find that really difficult because that's not where they're at right now. And so those people, the reason for the bottom row's reading is the Eight of Swords. And the reason for the top row's reading is the Queen of Wands. The feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel. The masculine cards can talk about how we're presenting ourselves in the world and action we're taking. And we might know, and the Eight of Swords is Gemini energy, about free will. We're either kind of fearful and we're kind of operating more from our ego, which can just be our defensive nature and even being defensive to love. And other people in their Gemini nature of free will are more aligned with their hopeful, believing Leo nature of having more hope and faith and belief in themselves. And I view high vibe Leo as, and of course Sagittarius is about higher learning and education and philosophy and learning lessons and wrapping our brain around this game of life. And the Knight of Wands, the Sagittarius, I view it as represented by the Knight of Wands. And this is a Queen of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is typically a masculine energy, which can just mean that we were kind of more making more decisions in our life, in our more immature nature, more caught up in ourselves, more caught up in the world. And as we kind of go pursue those things, the Knight of Swords is also Gemini energy. Our intuition can kind of be telling us, if you keep doing this, you're never going to more emotionally grow and mature yourself. Do you want to or do you not? Do you want to keep repeating an old pattern over and over? Or are you going to face your fears and decide to listen to your intuition and temper your more ego nature and emotionally grow and mature yourself? And the people who did do that, those people, which the Emperor is also Aries energy, and Aries and Leo and Sagittarius are the three fire sign energies. And that can be when people decided in the Six of Cups, I'm going to reconcile myself with some issues from my past that could make me defensive to loving and believing in myself, or listening to my intuition, or believing in myself, or believing in my dreams. And I'm going to work through those issues. Again, Sagittarius is kind of wrapping your brain around this game of life. I'm going And what the truth sets us free. I'm going to deal with the truth of these things that could keep me up in my head. And I'm going to decide to get to the truth of it. I'm going to look at all those thoughts I have in my head. And then we have the Four of Swords and we have the Ace of Cups. The Four of Swords can be, I want to feel more balance within myself, so I'm going to offer love to it. I'm going to offer love to work through all those fears and insecurities or self-limiting beliefs or past pain and heartbreak. The bottom row can kind of represented by the Eight of Swords, because there's a maximum of 10. I'm pretty tipped out of balance. Instead of being more hopeful and believing, because I maybe haven't reconciled with myself with some of these issues from my past, or it could even be my fear of love, because the Six of Cups can be about more deep, meaningful relationships, and I could have fear of being in a more deep, meaningful relationship, because in order to be in a more deep, meaningful relationship, I've got to get out of my defensive nature, I got to get out of my head. And this picture has a feminine figure in it, which can represent, our more emotional nature. And some people have kind of kept their more emotional nature imprisoned and have been living more from their mind than their heart. And they'd maybe need to get more, the Four of Swords, represented by Libra energy, represented by the Scales of Justice. I need to work through getting more balance within myself. I do want, the bottom row in our worldly egoic nature can represent, I want some of these things in the world that I want to manifest. And if one of them is to be in a relationship, and a more deep, meaningful relationship, I've got to maybe work through my fears and my insecurities about just to get more balance within myself, so I feel more balanced instead of tipped out of balance. So I'm going to offer love to myself and the situations I'm in. And I want to get to the truth. I want to free myself from things that manipulate me. I want to feel more balance within myself. I want to be more open to love. I want to be more open. We're either listening more to hope and faith and belief and our intuition and love to guide the decisions that we make, or we're going to make decisions more out of fear and insecurity or defensiveness or pride or ego, out of our more self-protective nature, or thinking, oh, I don't have to do that. I can go find other people to be in a relationship with or whatever, or I can go indulge in these things. That'll make me happy. But the truth is, love is what makes us happy. And it starts within ourself. And Aries energy is about the self. I need to offer love to myself, so I'm not, shadowy energy can be that I'm looking outside myself for the answer. The answer lies within me. I need to learn to love me. Otherwise, in a more shadowy, kind of like Knight of Wands, Sagittarius energy, I'm going and chasing after all these things outside of me to try to get someone to love me, validate my worth and value, make me feel more balanced and stable within myself, or to be the answer to all my problems. And just like some people can look to relationships to be the answer to their problems and make them feel that way, other people can look to drugs, alcohol, all sorts of things, right? And some people, they've already done that. And it keeps making them feel stuck. Is what the Hangman could talk about. And the World card can talk about, are you willing to see the truth about why that didn't work? Why you feel stuck? But, we have to be willing and kind of inspired within ourselves, this fire sign energy, to maybe see how the pages can represent that we're more codependent. And, we all grew up in families and we've had friends and all those things that we're loving and encouraging people to ourselves. And sometimes if we don't have some of those people around, we can feel really imbalanced. And we can have a lot of fear. Am I going to make a new friend? Am I going to find, especially Sagittarius energy can talk about kind of going on a new adventure. And we go on these new adventures in life. We might have to go when we were young. We might have had to go to a different school. When we got out of high school, we might have went to college. We had to go get a job. Then we maybe went to go get a different job. And then we might want to move towns. And it can be all this fear of change that makes us harness this energy in a more shadowy way, where we're kind of more defensive, and we tell ourselves, no, 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 let's just keep doing this. But we keep repeating the same pattern. We keep feeling stuck. We keep feeling in a mental prison. We keep looking to other things to be the answer. This isn't unique to anybody. We all go through experiences like this in our life, where things we wanted to have work out maybe didn't work out the way we wanted. Maybe people we wanted to be in friendship and relationship with, maybe we were in a friendship relationship and then it ended. And then we're in a mental prison, about that it ended. And, the hangman can be that people were operating from pride and ego, or maybe we were in a relationship with people we didn't want to see the truth about, that they operate more from pride and ego. And that's all part of willing to deal with the truth. If something happened and something ended, we could be a bystander watching it and we see other people and we're kind of affected by it. But, sometimes it's us. And then we've got to look at, well, how did I contribute to that not working out the way I wanted? Was I in the hangman? Was I being stubborn and prideful and willing to look at life from any other perspective or other people's perspective? In high vibe, the world's about learning lessons. Some people are quite prideful and stubborn, and there might be some issues that cause problems in workplaces, friendships, and relationships, but they defend maybe their more immature defensive nature out of their fear of love, out of their fear of being more just and fair, distrustful of other people, or they defend just their more immature nature. I want to be more immature. And other people feel stuck being in a relationship with someone who defends being more immature and defensive. The hangman is also Pisces energy, which can be, I have a dream. And in high vibe, again, we can all have our fears and our insecurities and self-limiting beliefs and past pain and heartbreak. But some people want to be in more emotionally mature, inspired, loving relationships. And that's their dream. And you can get in relationships with people who present themselves as being more emotionally mature, stable, grounded, loving, just, fair than they really are. And they have their fears and insecurities. And sometimes we don't know until we get to know them better. And sometimes we can kind of move forward, take that job, get in that friendship, get in that relationship. And as we go, and one person has the idea that, I am willing to look at things from other people's perspective, and I'm willing to put an end. The world can be about closing out a chapter. I'm going to put an end to my more defensive or immature or more about myself way of being, or my more defensive way of being, and I'm not going to get all up in my head. I mean, when I do get all up in my head and I feel a little defensive and I could almost feel like, screw this, I'm going to go do something to make myself feel better. I've maybe already done that before in my life, and had experience of having chosen that path before. So even when I'm kind of tempted, my intuition tells me don't do it, or you're going to miss an opportunity and close out a relationship with people where you could maybe be in a just and fair and loving relationship. And so then your intuition tells you you're up in your head. Don't do something reckless and impulsive, and don't go repeat some poor past patterns. Don't try to maybe control people or act stubborn or prideful. Don't try to manipulate people. Work through your fears and your insecurities. Offer love to yourself. Temper your fears and insecurities. High vibe Leo. Temper your fears and your insecurities and your self-limiting beliefs. Are the people who you're in friendship or relationship with, are they being loving and encouraging? Do they seem to be inspired to work together with you? Are they making good decisions in their life? Are they offering you truth and love to work together with you? Then don't sabotage another relationship or a workplace or something. But, you know, sometimes they're not ready to be more just and fair or ready for a more deep, meaningful relationship or a more emotionally mature relationship. Or in high vibe, the emperor, which can be male or female, again, the feminine figures can just talk about how we think and feel. Some people aren't ready to take on the responsibility of taking other people into consideration in the decisions that they make. And for some people, maybe it could be some of their dreams and aspirations that they have. And if I were to get in a relationship, even though some people could seem just and fair and stable and grounded and loving, which I would kind of think have some hope and faith and belief, and because that's the highest vibrational energy to be in, and that can get our whole creative inspired juices going. But if some people would feel like I have a dream and that is more what I need to focus on, like, so say someone has a dream and it requires them to, they could feel that I have to put aside more committed relationships right now because I need to focus. Say somebody wanted to be a doctor, right? Well, that can take a lot of schooling, but we can all know people who could have gotten married young and even had children. And, you have some hope and faith and belief you can make things work. But, everybody's got to make those decisions that they're comfortable with. And there's always going to be people in the world that might try to present themselves as more just and fair and stable and grounded and mature people that people should get in a relationship with, and people get in a relationship with, and then they find out that it's more to present themselves that way, so people will get in a relationship with them, but then they're defensive and fearful of love. And then they can just hope if they can get someone to move forward with them in the relationship. And the Fool card can be about taking that leap of faith to get in the relationship with them. Then once they get them in the relationship, because they might want to be in the relationship or get that job for the certain status or ego or image of it, but then they're hiding that they're in a mental prison about being more just and fair, and initially they can present themselves as more just and fair and more stable, more grounded, but really they're defensive to taking that leap of faith to do love. And, what we need to realize, and we kind of go out in the world and we could have that more hopeful believing spirit, and we think everybody, yes, has fears and insecurities, and we've all been more immature, and we can all have been defensive, and we can all have been hurt, but high vibe people think everybody's motivated and inspired by love. And some of the more immature, defensive, fearful of love people are looking for people that might have hope and faith and belief in love, who haven't learned some lessons about people like them. Because it'd be good for their ego and image if they could get in a relationship with someone who harnesses high vibe Pisces, who is putting into their more immature nature and indulging their more immature nature, who's worked through some of their fears and insecurities, is motivated and inspired by love. It's like, yeah, I want to be in a relationship with you. That'll make it look like I'm a more emotionally mature, stable, grounded, loving person. And I want people to view me like that. It's good for my ego and my image. And plus, it's really nice to be in a relationship with someone like you. So you're hopeful and believing and loving. You've kind of put an end to your more immature nature and defensive nature and fearful nature to be more authentic and loving and giving and nurturing and encouraging. Wow. That'd be great. Yeah, I want to be in a relationship with you. And then they get in the relationship, and then as time goes by, and other people who haven't learned that not everybody's motivated and inspired by love, and not everybody, you get in the relationship, and you could feel like they harness shadowy fire sign energy. That is kind of more shadowy fire sign energy, and operating, their truth is they emotionally are more aligned with defending, living more from their defensive egoic nature. Like, I don't really want to do love. I want to be in a relationship. I can like relationships. I like to indulge myself in relationships. But it can be more about the status and the ego and the image is more what drives and motivates them, not love. Living more from their mind than their heart, this can make logical, practical sense. This would be good for my ego and my image. And you're loving and nurturing and supportive and encouraging and hopeful and believing in love. That'll be great. And you can get in the friendship or the relationship for a long time because there's a lot of things to work out in a relationship, right? I like to do this, you like to go do that. I think this is just and fair, you think that's just and fair. Trying to work through these differences that we can have, and we can be in, again, a job, a friendship, and relationship with people for a long time until we kind of get down to that core critical truth at a core foundational level of what ultimately drives and motivates people. And that's when some people could see that I don't think it's really love that drives and motivates you. I think it's all these other things. Fear, insecurity, codependency, want for these things of the world, want to be in a relationship. But I don't really think it's love. And I do want to do love. And I want to be in relationships with people who have worked through some of their fears, their insecurities, their defensiveness to be more authentic and authentically motivated and wanting to be in the relationship for love. And that can be when you've kind of been enlightened to the truth in the hangman. And you don't want to keep staying in a relationship and move forward and keep moving forward in this energy with someone who wants to keep staying like on this row and just create the illusion it's the top row. This makes logical, practical sense. This looks just and fair. We can have love for each other, but, the devil card looks just like the lover's card. But in the devil card, there's the devil there, which could be us more for these worldly reasons. In the other card, there's an angel. And in the devil card, they have chains and shackles. So, yeah, there can be love there, but it can be a more codependent. One person has more fear or insecurity or more about themselves or more manipulative or more immature or more defensive or more bossy and controlling or more superficial and shallow. And it's like, I thought we were going to work through those issues so that we could have a deep, meaningful relationship inspired by love. And the other people are like, nope. And while some people are in a relationship and some people are in them right now, when you're kind of up in a mental prison about, I'm starting to see that maybe, we could have been like kind of loving and encouraging and supportive people to each other, but eventually you kind of get down to that core foundational truth in their Gemini nature of self, of what foundation they build their life upon. Is it more hopeful and believing in love and having hope and faith and belief in themselves and others and love? Or is it really more about them or these things of the world? And that's when you're kind of thinking, I don't know that I want to stay in it, the other person is also kind of thinking, everybody can kind of feel that you're getting at that critical point, and it's kind of like God trying to shake up the puzzle board for some mismatched pieces that got kind of shoved together when their truth really at a core foundational level is not the same. And trying to get people to see the truth, and everybody has the free will to live their life the way they want it. And if some people's truth is, which they could start to think, I don't think I want to keep moving forward with you either, because you do want me to work through maybe my fears and insecurities or my self-limiting beliefs or this way I view life, and I don't view life that way. That's not my truth. And so then they think, too, that they want to end it, but they want to go repeat this old pattern. Because freeing yourself from things that manipulate you sets you free to move forward to the next level of the video game of life. To shed another layer of your fear and your insecurity or your defensiveness or whatever. But they already have things that manipulate them that they don't want to see the truth of. They defend repeating some old patterns, turning their back on seeing the truth of what manipulates them. And the difference between the one sword and the Eight of Swords is the Seven of Swords, which in our Aquarius energy, we either look at life from a higher perspective, are able to put things in perspective, and look at life from the bigger picture and put all these issues kind of in perspective and work through it and kind of listen to our intuition to guide us versus our fear or insecurity or our pride or ego or more worldly, more about our self nature. But again, in a shadowy Seven of Swords of Aquarius energy can be, I don't want to listen to my intuition. I don't want to listen to that maybe I should heal or grow or mature myself or temper my ego or quit letting the world manipulate me and my ego or having it to be more about me. And that's when some people realize they're in a relationship where they have different dreams of what they think they would find emotionally fulfilling in their life, what they think is just and fair, and willing to be more authentic and get out of your defensive egoic nature or being more about yourself, and other people aren't ready to do that. And some people just aren't ready to come out from their ego, and they just kind of let their ego run their life. And some people at some point in time in their life decided, I am not aligning with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature, because that aspect of myself wants me to take these leaps of faith, and I don't know, it could happen and I could get hurt. So I'm going to stay back here and I'm going to keep operating from my ego. So just like we have our dualistic nature, we have our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, we have our shadow nature. It's kind of like they both whisper in our ear and our subconscious. High vibe people work through their fears and insecurities so that their more high vibrational natures kind of in the driver's seat of their life. And other people haven't worked through it yet, and they may never work through it. And some of them made the free will choice. Nope, my more hopeful, believing nature could get hurt out there. I'm not letting them out. I'm going to keep my more emotional nature imprisoned. They can look out through the eyeballs, but my more egoic nature of shadowy Queen of Wands, shadowy Aries, my more emotionally shadowy Scorpio nature of being more superficial and shallow, use my and shadowy energy can be where I'm going to use I'm not going to connect in. I am not going to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. I've been given all those kind of resources, and that's a possibility and an option for me. But I think I'll be just fine. I'm going to operate more from my ego nature, male or female. And I think I can use all my resources, not really invest in them, but I can use my emotions, my sexuality, my words, my charm, my looks, my money, my status, my image. I think I can use them all more in an emotionally manipulative way to get what I want. And then there's no fear of me being hurt because I don't really have skin in the game. And that is how some people want to live their life. Nope, I don't want to see the truth. Nope, I don't want to see why I choose this. It ends up just like they don't choose their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. They eventually don't choose the more hopeful, believing, loving people in their life. Because those people want them to work through some of that past pain and heartbreak or fears or insecurities or this way of living life. And they might not even want to see the truth of it. Shadowy energy can be, no, I want to stay in denial of the truth. I'm not prideful. I'm not egotistical. I'm not defensive. I'm not immature. I do love. But it is kind of more superficial and shallow, living more from their mind than their heart, trying to emotionally manipulate people, more offering them these things of the world to try to get them to be in a relationship. And what they could have to offer is, I'll have sex with you. Who wants to be in a relationship? I'll have sex with you. Is that enough? Other people have money, status, image, power, social clout. You know, whatever it is. They just don't really want to be more authentic in a relationship. And some people, their way of operating is, again, they like to maybe control. So, you know, this is the top row, but people can try to present themselves as more high vibe. They're really more motivated and inspired to repeat this old pattern, which is what the Six of Cups can talk about. And so I'm going to try to present myself a certain way in the world, which could just be attractive, charming, money, status, image, power. That I am more motivated and inspired by love, so that hopefully other people who don't know me, or I wear a good enough false mask and I can create this illusion good enough, will get in a relationship with me. And until they listen to their intuition and are willing to stand up for themselves, then I guess they're always in the relationship fearing the other person is going to be enlightened to the truth and see through the illusion that they're not who they say they are. They're much more codependent, much more fearful, more out of balance maybe, more about themselves and how it benefits them. And if the other people they start to realize are starting to see the truth and kind of looking to the future and wanting the justice they deserve, and if they start to feel like those people are starting to see the truth, you know, they might do some things to try to manipulate and control that person, to get them up in their head, to try to confuse them, maybe do some immature things, maybe do some hurtful things, anything to try to get the person to stop focusing on loving and believing in themselves and come back and focus more on them and this relationship, you know, whatever it could be. I'll pay attention to other people. I'll invest more of my time and energy into other people. I'll act stubborn and prideful. I'll be defensive to try to stop the other person from continuing to heal and stay balanced within themselves. I want you to get out of balance. I want you to stay stuck with me in a relationship, even though I am not treating you the way you treat me. Even though I am not being authentic and loving and just and fair. And if none of that works, well, then I don't want to be in the relationship either, and you can go. And I'll go find someone who does look at life from my perspective. And then some people, they can't understand, because the way they view life, they could think, oh my gosh, this looks just and fair. This looks stable, grounded. I think it's great. We should stay in it. And it's like, this might be your idea of a just and fair relationship, but I'm maybe being just and fair and trying to work together with you in a just and fair and authentic and loving way. And I'm in a relationship with you. And you're acting immature, bossy, controlling, stubborn, defensive, get all up in your head and your fear, your insecurities or whatever it is. I'm doing what I'm doing and you're doing what you're doing. That might work for you, but it's not working for me. I want to be in relationships with other people who have been willing to look at life from another perspective and expand their perception of themselves and the world around them and how they view life and how they view themselves and how they view others, and maybe connect more in with their emotions and quit kind of indulging their more immature nature or fearful nature and actually get inspired to work through those issues to be more just and fair and balanced and loving in a relationship. But I keep seeing that isn't your truth. You want to keep doing this over and over. Some people didn't want to leave relationships, but how long are you going to keep repeating a pattern over and over with someone who keeps showing you they're kind of defending their truth of what they think is just and fair? And when are you going to stand up for your truth to get the justice you deserve? And that's when high vibe people offer love to the situation. You have the free will to live your life the way you want. This isn't my truth. I can't keep doing this. I don't think this is just and fair. So I am going to work through my own fears and insecurities to make a decision that, and adding the 1 cup to it is maybe what gets people to the 6 of cups. So that means in this situation, they could have felt it was in the 5 of cups. And that also is Scorpio energy. And it's kind of feeling sad because people aren't working together with you from a foundation of love. And it's a free will choice to work through those issues, or your pride or your ego, or for some reason thinking it should be more about you, or your fears or your insecurities. And if people are not willing to do that because they're defensive to dealing with the truth and they don't want to deal with the truth, it's like, then I wish you peace and love to go live your life like that. But I've decided to offer love to the situation, to be in a more balanced state within myself. I've offered you truth and love to move forward with me in that way. And they said, nope, I'm going to go do this. And odds are, you could view it as being more taking action out of pride, ego, fear, codependency, lust, greed, them. And it's like, you do you. And you decided to make peace with the past. It is what it is. And shadowy energy this being Leo energy, which can represent our egoic nature, I'm going to offer love to myself to get out of my ego about it. Everybody is where they're at. Everybody views life the way they view it. Everybody's at different emotional maturity levels. Everybody has their idea of what a just and fair relationship is. And I saw that wasn't my truth. That might be their truth. They just need to get in a relationship with someone else who agrees with them. And I'm going to give myself the things that I wish other people would have given me to stand up for my truth. And I'm going to offer love to myself because love is the answer. And I know that. They might not know that. And they're maybe going to go repeat some poor past patterns and ways of being. I've maybe already been there and done that. And I don't want to keep doing it. And I'm not going to do it now. And I'm going to listen to my intuition, make good decisions in my life, take action in my life, out of hope and faith and belief and love in myself, and maintain balance within myself, not indulge poor behavior in myself or others, or I'm going to get the same pattern again. The only person I can change is me, so I'm going to change me. And then some people had to do some work, and some people are doing that work within themselves right now, to work through what it was that would have made them get in it and stay in it so that they don't do it again. There is something within us that makes us repeat certain patterns of relationships. Part of it can be we could be used to doing that, being in kind of more imbalanced, mismatched relationships. Or we had our own fear of loving and believing in ourselves. So then we're going to get in relationships with some other people who are happy we're in that energy because they could be in that energy or some other shadowy energy of their own. We could be always trying to change other people. No, you should love and believe in yourself. And instead we could have been in relationships with people who already did love and believe in themselves. Where we weren't trying to change someone. But that could have been out of our comfort zone. Well, that would be different. I haven't really been in a relationship like that. That's out of my comfort zone. I think I'll keep repeating this pattern. So then you kept repeating a pattern. And you go through it enough times where it's like, I am ready. I am ready to be in a relationship that is different than what I've experienced. Because during this process, I have learned to stand up for myself, harnessing this energy in a more high vibrational way. I do have a dream, and it wasn't this. I thought it was. But I maybe wasn't seeing how I wasn't listening to my intuition, and I maybe wasn't listening to my intuition about other people. Maybe I was drawn and attracted to getting in relationships with people, not wanting to see the truth, thinking everybody would grow up and mature themselves. And it's like, say I'm a certain age, and I'm living my life a certain way, and at any age, people can be anywhere on the spectrum of the type of behavior that they have, right? And ways of living life or viewing life. But if I kept getting in relationships with people who I didn't really think kind of like we were on the same page, and, you know, maybe I'd always get in relationship with people who are more stubborn or prideful or immature. Well, I'm going to quit getting in relationships with people when they show me they're more prideful or defensive or immature or bossy or controlling or whatever. No more. When people show me they have certain traits and characteristics that I've kind of already dealt with people who are like that. I don't care if I find you attractive or charming. No. No more indulging my more immature nature, deceiving myself, thinking people will change. If they wanted to be a different type of person and viewed life differently, that would be the type of person they would be right now. And they're not. So I need to quit indulging my more immature nature that wants to say, oh, I'm sure everybody's motivated and inspired to grow and heal and mature themselves. No, we have found out that is not true. So even though, I got an alarm on my phone, even though I could view some people again in between, here's the Seven of Swords, even though there's some people that's like, oh, gee, I could feel like my dream could come into reality with them. Like, do not delude yourself. And if your intuition is telling you, no, we can see that there's some lessons they haven't learned, or, wish them peace, work through it, and keep kind of walking your talk. So, what were those things that people had to work through? The Five of Pentacles and the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords, the 5, the 6, and the 7 of Swords is all Aquarius energy. That, again, we'd like things that we've invested in to work the way we wanted them to work. And we would rather not detach from that foundation. We can always wish other people would change, but if we see they're not changing, then the only person we can change is us. And, it causes us mental conflict because we had a dream we wanted to have come into reality. But again, we keep seeing it's not working that way. And again, we can't make other people look at life differently. We can't make people learn lessons in life. It's kind of like when people are ready to accept the truth, if we could look back at some examples in our own life at whatever different ages that we were, and we were living our life one way, and we were thinking, I was living the dream, and oh my gosh, this is a blast. And then, if anybody at that time of life were trying to tell us, why are you doing that? Haven't you done that enough? And you should move forward in life a little differently, or, or you're being immature, or whatever. We were like, no way, man. I'm going to keep doing this. And then things could happen where, and it can just take time with some people. You're at a level of emotional maturity. You look at life the way you look at life. And until you go through some of those life experiences where it's like, oh shit, this is kind of, maybe I should stop doing some of these things, and when more things keep not working, because it's kind of like if you keep staying at a certain phase of life too long, it's kind of like you are not going with the flow of life and facing your fears and believing in yourself, and then it kind of wears on your self-esteem, and then you feel more up in your head, and then you can feel more stuck. And, once you've kind of experienced that sometimes in your life, or repeating some poor past patterns enough times, you're like, I'm not going back to that. And you've learned those lessons that I have got to learn how to maintain balance within myself. I need to be more loving and encouraging in myself. If I indulge myself in my fear and my self-pity and whatever, it could, the shadowy row can represent the devil. It kind of drags us down into hell, and it's really super hard to get out. And then we could get in friendships and relationships with people we could have met in hell, and we can be loving and encouraging and supportive people to each other to a degree to get us all more balanced or stable. But again, some of those friendships and relationships, once we get there, how we want to move forward is differently. Other people want us to stay right here. It's like, well, thank you, and I appreciate that we were able to help each other, but I am ready now to, maybe back then I wasn't seeing it, but now, let's move forward together. I think high vibe people offer people truth and love to move forward with them, but then the other people cannot be ready to move forward in life differently. And so then again, they might look, and then there's some people in the world that are always looking for people who are stuck. And some people like to play that role in people's life. Well, if I wanted to be in a relationship with someone who was more balanced and healed, I would have gotten in a relationship with someone like that. And some people purposely look for people who are stuck and in their head, and because something didn't work out. And then they could always hope that if they get in a relationship, that they can make those people like, just go to this phase of life and then let's stay here forever. And let's not, I don't want to work through any of my fears or insecurities. I don't mind you working through some, But then let's stay here. And that is kind of like, again, watering a plant, so sometimes in my readings I've equated human beings to apple trees. you know, an apple tree doesn't have free will. It searches for the sun. It tries to grow to its full potential. But we as human beings have our comfort zones. And so an apple tree could grow to 30 feet, maybe 40, 50, I don't know, and get like 1,000 apples. But some people would be like, no, 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 I'm good at 15 feet. I have a job, I'm in a relationship, or I'm married, or whatever. I'm good. I don't want to do anything more. This is my comfort zone. And other people are like, well, I might want to have a job and I might want to be in a relationship or I might want to get married. But I didn't think like I wasn't going to keep kind of growing and maturing myself and learning lessons in life. And other people are like, no, I don't want to, there's nothing I want to let go of. And that's part of moving forward. You have to be willing to look to see what should go and what should stay. And in order to move forward, some of these people, though, they would have to get out of their defensive nature. They'd have to quit living more from their mind than their heart, maybe quit indulging themselves in their more worldly, egoic view of life, or their more prideful nature, or bossy nature, or manipulative nature, and they are not comfortable doing that. And so, until they're willing to see maybe how it keeps not working for them, and it keeps them, when do they get tired of the baggage they carry? And sometimes people can carry baggage for a long time, and some people are just so damn stubborn, even though they could be driving their life off into the ditch, even though there's loving and encouraging people in their life, because other people wanted them to grow up in some way, temper their ego in some way. How dare you? I don't give a damn. I'm going to sit here and prove a point that I don't have to do that. It's like, no, you don't. But what they don't kind of get, which they might realize one day, is other people moved on. They got over it. And they're at peace. And they keep being up in their head, trying to prove a point. I don't have to change. It's like, no, you don't. Enjoy your life. And other people, the fives talk about change. The other people changed. I did heal, and I see that you have these ways of being, and you could be very stubborn or whatever. I accept that. I've moved on. I've put it behind me. And I'm looking to the future, and they keep repeating an old pattern over and over. And the problem is they can't stop other people from working through their fears and insecurities or self-limiting beliefs or past pain and heartbreak. And those people might stay in a friendship or relationship with them for X amount of time. And eventually those people are going to be like, I'm going to move on. And they're going to go try to repeat this pattern with someone else. It's like, okay. Because for some of them, it just has to be all about them. They have to be indulged in the relationship, and if it isn't more about them, and how dare anybody think that they should grow or heal them, so they could just be really full of themselves, some people. What's coming out for some people who harness some high vibe Sagittarius energy that they might not see coming? Who are doing the work to work through, if they haven't already. Oh, another thing is, shadowy people, it can be all about trying to create this illusion about their life. Look how wonderful my life is. Look, I got a new job, a new friend, a new relationship, whatever. But it's just an illusion. Trying to stop people from seeing the truth about who they really are. And so it is to kind of use other people as pawns to help create this illusion about the type of person they are. Oh, I'm going to hang out with this person. This person seems this way or acts this way or whatever. Then people will view me as I must be that kind of person too because I got that person to get in a friendship or relationship with me. It's like, no, those people just haven't learned the truth about you yet. And when they do, they will probably be defensive to you just like some other people have been. When they see through the illusion that you're not who you say you are. But until then, and they're like, well, as long as they don't see the truth, I'm going to keep defending this and creating this illusion. It's like, you go. Enjoy your illusion. You could live your more authentic life. But I think they're too fearful to live their more authentic life or just don't even view life that way. They could just view life that everything is about this creating this illusion about who you are. And other people are like, I'm just living my more authentic life. But they might think that you're just putting on a better illusion than them and they don't know how you did it. But the thing is, you're not operating from a lack mentality and wanting to win at all costs. You're not creating an illusion. And you realize some people do have a lack mentality, do have a lot of mental conflict about being more authentic. And you could have had your own fears about living your more authentic life and working through your fears and insecurities and being more bold and brave and confident. But you worked through that feeling of feeling left out in the cold in your mental conflict to live your more authentic life. And you're no longer feeling left out in the cold and in mental conflict because you offered love to it to heal. And now you're moving on. And while you're moving on in life, they're still creating an illusion about who they are. What's coming up for the high vibe people? The Seven of Cups, the Empress, the Eight of Cups. Shoot, I don't remember. Well, we'll assume it was this card. Why? Because of the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords in your Aquarius energy means that you have a dream. The fives and the sevens are challenging times in our life because do I move forward this way? Do I move forward that way? What's my truth? What's their truth? Is this just and fair? Isn't this just and fair? And high vibe people could have felt like other people were being deceptive and manipulative, that there was never going to be a more deep, meaningful relationship and give birth to something new where you become independent of an old pattern because the other person wants to keep repeating this old pattern. They don't want to give birth to something new because in order to give birth to something new, you'd have to offer love to the things that manipulate you to free yourself from them. And you are willing to listen to your intuition, to work through the emotional confusion, to get balance within yourself and love yourself. To offer yourself that cup of love so you could become independent of the illusion. And I think as you move forward in that way, there's other people who have worked through, just like any phase of life. You know, you kind of quit living life a certain way, viewing life a certain way, indulging in certain things to certain degrees, you know, and then you meet other people who aren't living their life that way either to that degree. And you find people who are more on the same page as you. And there's always going to be shadowy people in the world. We can't get rid of shadowy, immature people that might wear a good false mask. There's always going to be shadowy people that want to be the next shadowy person to be indulged in a relationship with you. But now you've learned to really listen to your intuition. Where before you maybe didn't. Your intuition was trying to tell you, I don't think you should do that. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think their truth is the same as yours. I don't think they're just and fair. I think they're more repeating this old pattern. But we were like, nope, I'm going to go do it. Not anymore. Now you're listening to your intuition. And when people try to create an illusion about the type of person they are, that they're these just and fair and stable and grounded and authentic people, I think you're willing to get to know people in the Six of Cups, but you're not going to move forward with anyone. So, like the Six of Cups to the Seven of Cups can be, I am willing to get to know people, but I'm going to be listening to my intuition. I'm not going to make a decision out of shadowy energy because I do feel stable and balanced and love myself. And I'm not willing to give up my dreams anymore to indulge someone. And so I think you'll just listen to your intuition about who's who. And if your intuition tells you, I think these people are the real deal, you know, I'll move forward with them in friendships and relationships. And the people who I think aren't, I'm going to kind of keep my distance from and keep investing more of my time and energy into the people who I think are. And, there's no guarantees in life. If as some time goes by, people start to act kind of shadowy, I've learned to no longer not fearful of bringing it up. It's more like, hey, what's going on? Because we either deal with it when it comes up, or we're going to deal with it 3 months, 3 years, 30 years later down the road. So it gets dealt with. What's going on? And I don't want to spend one more day being deceived and manipulated and confused. Tell me the truth and what's going on, or I can wish you peace and I can move on, because I'm willing to do that. What's coming up for the shadowy people they might not see coming? The Two of Cups. Why? Because of the Six of Cups. Some people who don't want to, they love kind of repeating some pattern. That is their comfort zone. Whatever it is. If they like being in shadow, the Six of Cups can be more superficial, shallow relationships. If that's their comfort zone because they don't want to be in a more deep, meaningful relationship, they'll probably eventually end up in relationships with people like that. Because, they reject, and high vibe people move on from them. But again, they can like to be in relationships, but what they don't see coming is other people offer love to the past, because the Six of Cups can represent the past. They offer love to the past. We can all be repeating a pattern, just like we were all 18 one time. We were all 21 one time, right? We can all be at a certain stage of life, and they can get in relationships with people who are kind of at a stage of life that they could be at. The problem is the other people are inspired to work through these issues within themselves eventually to kind of make peace with some of those issues in their life so they can let them go to move forward in life a little differently. But some of the more shadowy people, it's like, oh, damn, the other person isn't willing to make their life more about me, or stay in the relationship more of their fear or their insecurity, or more for the status or the ego or the image. Damn, another person's leaving, then I need to go find someone else. And eventually, sometimes I think we are drawn and attracted to people who remind us of people from our past because we haven't healed from a relationship from our past. And we don't even know that's why we could be drawn and attracted to people. And then when we get in relationships with people who might have some of those traits and characteristics of someone from our past that we didn't feel like we got the justice we deserved, we can be drawn and attracted to getting in relationships with people like that. And so some of these people might get in a relationship with someone like that, and they could think, I'll be happy. This is my comfort zone. But if it was kind of being drawn and attracted to people that are also kind of like us as a child, wanting people who are maybe a little more stubborn or not so loving or something, or a little more manipulative, we can be drawn and attracted to people like that because this time kind of it's us being in our ego nature. I want to win. I want that person to change because I deserve it. I was loving. I wanted those people to love me. But when we get in relationships with people who have some of those same traits and qualities and characteristics, it's us not wanting to see the truth that people are the way they are. And again, trying to change people. And they might have someone who's willing to repeat that pattern with them. But the thing is, kids grow up. And then kids want to, they could then try to get someone like that to change and move forward with them. And that can be when we're a little bit, again, wanting to change other people. No, I don't want to change. No, they need to change. And if I get in relationships with people who change, but then they want me to change, no, I'm not going to change. I'm going to go find someone else who needs to change. And other people are like, okay, I'm done trying to change people. I'm going to change. I'm going to work through how I can try to change people. Or I could be drawn and attracted to people because they have some of those traits and characteristics. I'm going to get out of my ego about it. I'm going to offer love to all those things in my past and the people in my past and accept, but you have to be willing to deal with the truth. I dealt with people in my life, for example, that maybe weren't very giving or open or loving. So then I can be drawn and attracted to people who are like that because I'm trying to get them to kind of love me in a way, right? And it's like, or bossy or controlling or abusive or whatever it is. And it's like, no, I'm done. I've done it enough. I realize I deserve love. And the whole situation forced me to do this work within myself. And I'm done with the illusion. People are either just and fair and loving and encouraging and supportive, or they're not. And I'm not going to settle for less. They can go get in a relationship with whoever they want. And the Emperor is a counterpart to the Empress. So you were in Queen of Wands energy. The Emperor and the Empress is a level above that. You're growing and healing and maturing yourself. And you're looking for someone who is a counterpart to that. And you're listening to your intuition as you're doing that. And I think as you do that and quit investing in people who aren't in that energy, that opens the door. Trusting the divine wants you to get your divine inheritance. But it's kind of like the whole time you were investing in what wasn't, the divine's there. It's like, come on, see the truth. You deserve justice and fairness. You're not going to get justice and fairness here. Listen to your intuition. Do this, make this decision to work through these issues of your past so that you can free yourself from your own mental conflict and your own lack mentality and your own maybe not feeling good enough or lack mentality. Start to put things in perspective. Everybody has these issues. Some people free themselves from it. Some people didn't. It doesn't really have anything to do with you. You can only take responsibility for your part. Take responsibility for your part and let other people take responsibility for their part. You grow up and mature yourself. If other people choose to grow up and mature themselves and free themselves from what manipulates them, yay. If not, you're going to learn how hard it is to do it. And you probably understand why people didn't do it. Because you're going to have to go through this period of feeling left out in the cold and have all this mental conflict about loving and believing in yourself when you could just go try to make yourself feel better doing things the way you've been doing it. And that's probably why other people did it. But you don't want to keep repeating that pattern. I want to become independent of it. I want justice. So that means I have to take action in truth and love and justice and fairness with these lessons I've learned. And I'm going to go get my dream. And I think divine energy will work with you. It's like the divine's working with all of us to manifest whatever we want. Whatever we choose to put work and effort into or settle for is what we're going to manifest. And the people who said, nope, not this. I wish you peace and love. to my former self, to people who are still living their life. I understand it. I've been there. I'm moving on. And I am going to keep offering myself that cup of love to keep giving birth to what I want to give birth to. And it's not repeating this old pattern. So there you go, Sagittarius. I wish you peace, love, and joy. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.